90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box, here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., talking about sports, among other things. And we are part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. Sports Talk every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., and an additional show, just like us, on Tuesdays from 10 p.m. to midnight. I'm Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother, Tim Leonard, and award-winning sports writer, we should say. Hello, brother. How are we doing today?
All that in one person, brother. I'm doing all right. How are you?
That's good. I'm doing okay, too. I was watching the tennis last night, and we're going to have Dan DeRosalia returning for his annual visit to talk about the United States Tennis Open at about 25 minutes or so. But there was a lot of other things. Yesterday was a busy sports day. Maybe the busiest we've seen because football started. But there was a lot of other things going on, too. You know, that's what happens starting in September. We'll start off, brother, with the game the Islanders should have won. They didn't.
Let's not go that far, brother.
Well, no, when I say they should have won, meaning that not like Game 2 where they lost in overtime and they won in Game 3. They needed to win Game 4.
Yeah,
that's why I said they
needed to win and should have won are two very different things.
Well, I'm
needed to win. I agree 100% with.
Yes.
More than 100%. But should have won. They didn't play well enough to win. That was the problem.
Good point.
And right now, because of that, the Islanders are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
because you know there are issues and there are massive issues with the Islanders. And right now, if I had to guess, I'd say at most there are 2 games left in the Islanders season. And it pains me to say that, brother. Massively pains me to say that. But
I do. I agree.
I don't see the Islanders winning this series.
No, I don't either. I thought maybe Tampa Bay might trip a little bit just because they've been playing so well. And sometimes that does happen to good teams. They trip. The Islanders, they start out Game 4 yesterday with the first goal. But right after that, Tampa Bay said, no, you're not going anywhere. And they scored literally right afterwards. And right there, you started to realize, okay, this might not be the game we win. Or we shouldn't say we win, that the Islanders win.
Well, I mean, it was the situation was a pretty crazy one because the Islanders get the lead. Brock Nelson gets the goal, 11:27. I mean, we're halfway through the game. Not a goal has been scored, and then Brock Nelson puts the Islanders in the lead.
Yep.
And Islander fans are literally maybe still in the process of shouting yes, yes, yes. And then Blake Coleman scores for the Lightning 15 seconds later. It was a long pass from the defenseman over the top. I really, as well as I thought Varlamov played yesterday, I don't know what he was doing on this goal. He looked flat-footed. He tried to poke check the puck, and his legs got kind of stuck under him. I just don't know. He really, I thought he really screwed that goal up. And then 12 seconds after Coleman scores, Andre Palat scores the go-ahead goal for the Lightning. And if you're an Islander fan, you went from being deliriously happy because now you have a 1-0 lead, and maybe you can grow that lead, or at least you have some sort of control of the game. And a half a minute later, not even a half a minute later, now you're trailing by a goal. And I don't know about you, but I was. At that point, I was like, "What's going on here?" And we're in trouble. And yeah, I usually with the Islanders, I don't care about all of that stuff. But that was it was a real bad place to be, especially after the elation of taking the one goal, the scoring the first goal and getting the lead, and then to just have it flipped it in a total 180 that quickly was jarring, to say the least.
No, I agree. It was it's funny how games can just sort of end even before they're finished. And yesterday was one of those games. And, they were down 3-1. And isn't me, brother, that it's really tougher to get a extra man goal in those situations nowadays? Because to me, it just seems that the defense just sort of flips the puck out because there's really no two-line pass anymore. You sort of just flip the puck out to the middle, and then hopefully someone gets it and just shoots it in. And the Islanders went in 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes to pull their goalie at the third period. I mean,
there was still a decent amount of time.
3-2 is better than 4-1. I mean, I guess that's what I'm talking about.
When did you want him to pull a goalie?
I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, you complained when the Flyers did it with 6 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, I know, and I thought that was way too early. So
I don't know where do you want to go with it? I don't know. The Islanders had that power play. They had the power play late in the third period, and I thought they were going to be able to do something with that, but they didn't. So once that happened, that was when I knew the game was over, because what else is going to happen? You have a chance to cut the lead. I'm not going to say the refs gave him a break because I thought it was a penalty, but when you have that 2-minute opportunity left, or 2-minute power play opportunity, and you don't convert that, and there's only a few minutes left in the game, that's your chance. And they desperately needed to score a goal there, and they didn't. So, okay, that's what it is. So, you can pull a goalie, and it's not really going to change anything. And there are probably some people who thought they should have pulled the goalie for the power play, which I think would have been ridiculous. But that's some people have their own thoughts on things like that. But the bottom line is that the Islanders were really in trouble early in the third period. Braden Point scored that goal early in the third. I think it was like at 3:33 or whatever, and that made it 3-1. And that was the killer goal right there, because at 2-1, all it is a goal, and now you got a tie, and the worst thing that can happen is you go to overtime, and that's fine. If that's what happens, that's fine. But Point scored, now it's 3-1. Now you need to score twice just to send it to overtime, and you have to work that much harder, and you need 3, which the Islanders aren't going to score 3 in a period against the Lightning. The Lightning are just too good defensively, so that's not going to happen. But now the mountain just became way bigger to climb.
By the way, brother, I saw something that you were in an argument on Facebook about that you were calling the Tampa Bay Lightning the Ning.
The Ning.
Because that's what you've heard. But then there were some fans that say, no, we call them the Bolts. Yeah,
that's my guy Tampa Matt.
And
Tampa Matt is an alarm fan. He will. He often comes up to New York for shows because he'll be able to see a couple of shows in a weekend. Is he
right or wrong, brother? Because I know you had a good source on the name.
We're both right. We're both right. They do call them the Bolts down there. I'm not going to deny that. But they also call them the Ning.
Who calls them the Ning?
It's Florida, brother. What do you expect from Florida? It's a crazy state.
Filled with mostly old New Yorkers who are angry.
Stuff happens down in Florida, the crazy stuff. And the first thing you do when you read it is you say, oh, hey, look, Florida. Florida's the craziest state in the union. Florida is undoubtedly the craziest state in the union. There's no questioning that. Craziest.
And we do have some family down there.
Yes, exactly.
Which says a lot. So the Islanders, they play Tuesday night in the same place. This is where a home team advantage might help the Islanders just a little bit. What's wrong, brother?
Stop eating.
Oh, why? I'm making noise?
You're chewing on the mic.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just hungry, man. I just like my breakfast.
Good. Eat after the show.
I'm hungry. I didn't want to eat before breakfast, before the show, because I didn't, No,
nobody cares. Let's get back to the Islanders, brother, all right?
Anyway, Islanders play Tuesday night. There's no home arena advantage. It's all the same, and,
In theory, we'd be going back to Tampa for this game.
Yeah, well,
but in theory, I don't know that the Islanders would have lost a game 4 at home.
That's true.
Like I said, Tuesday is game 5, like you said. Thursday would be game 6. I genuinely don't see the series going past game 6. If the Islanders can manage to win tomorrow, and I think they will, because desperation suggests that they will. They really do need to play an outstanding game to extend the series. But to put that kind of emotion and energy and ability into 3 straight games is pretty much impossible. And now the Lightning only need to do it once.
Now, the Islanders, as a historical team, has done this several times, though, over their career. We come back from being down either 3-1 or 3-0. So, the history is on the Islanders' side. That doesn't mean it will happen.
No. The history's not on there. So I don't know where you're getting this stuff, bro. No.
1975?
Maybe they've done
1975?
Have they done it previously?
Yes.
Sure they have. But is history on their side? No. Do you know what the percentage is for teams that have a 3-1 lead in the series to win the series?
I know.
It's over 90%.
I know that, Tom. I'm just saying.
So don't say history is on their side. History is decidedly not on their side.
No, I'm talking about Islander history. This happened in 75. This happened, who they've down 3-1 with? A couple of teams that were down 3-1.
The Penguins.
In 82, I think it was.
Well,
was it 82? I forgot.
I don't
but
know.
there is, at least they've done it as a team.
Yes,
so,
have they done it? Yes. Were any of the current players alive when they did it?
No.
So come on, let's talk serious here.
But if I was producing the game tomorrow, I'd bring that up, that there is that sort of history.
Of course, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will bring it up. I'm sure it will be mentioned that, hey, the Islanders rallied from 3-0 down to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, and yeah, fine, they will. All of that stuff, I'm sure, will be in the pregame notes and will be used by TV people and sports writers and whatever. But the facts of the matter are this. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won their first 2 playoff series by a 4-1 series, by 4-1 in games. Now they're on the verge of doing it for a 3rd series. They are a very good hockey team.
I know, Tim. I know that, Tim.
Those are the relevant facts.
I'm just saying, if you look at history. No, I'm just telling you. Then you can be quiet for a minute and listen to your brother. Yesterday, Tim, I'm watching Patrick McEnroe and John McEnroe calling the game with whoever the other guy was. I forgot who the other guy was. And you know what? Patrick McEnroe, the younger brother of John McEnroe, is very, hey, he's my older brother. I'm going to listen to him. You should take the same thing, younger brother.
And how many times did John McEnroe say during the say? Well, like Patrick said before.
No, I didn't hear that.
Often said that.
Really.
I wish my brother would do that once in a while.
I do that all the time. I save your butt all the time, brother. Anyway, we should say that it was nice to hear Doc Emmerich calling the game yesterday. Very nice. Because he's just one of the great hockey announcers of all time.
He's one of the great announcers of all time. Yeah. Never mind hockey. He is outstanding no matter what sport you put him in.
I have no problem with that. Anyway, brother, let's go to the Jets. Jets. Just end the season now.
Wait, bro. No, let's not go to the Jets. We'll talk Jets after we talk tennis. I got more Islander stuff I want to talk about here.
How much more Islander stuff is there?
Because here's what we need to talk about with the Islanders on the verge of their season being over. All right.
Right.
I am curious, and I want to see what is going to happen, and whether or not Lou Lamoriello is going to actually address the needs of this team.
Right, but that's next week, Timmy. That's next week's. Because if the Islanders win, they're not going to do anything right now.
This is still a team that has flaws, and when you compare them to the Tampa Bay Lightning, which actually is an elite team, you're seeing in this series how far the Islanders actually are away from being a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Because they have probably a guy who's the best coach in the league. If not, he's one of the top 3. But the talent is not even close to top 3 talent. And there are a number of positions.
And we should say that Lou Lamoriello won General Manager of the Year.
Yes, he did.
So that's it's a good thing for him and the Islanders in general. I agree, brother, but that's next week's episode, not this week's, because if the Islanders win, then we're like, oh, okay, we got talk about the finals. And that would be a whole different thing. Do I think the Islanders need some changes? Of course they do. They even when they were winning the Stanley Cups, they did changes. So
yeah, but those were just minor tweaks. This team still is I would say at least 3 players away. It's a pretty good team, and it's a team that has had a fortunate run in the playoffs. And really, let's face it, it's captured the imagination of hockey fans all over the United States and Canada. But in this series, they're kind of being exposed here in terms of of what's missing and what they need. So
they all of a sudden they're not what they were two playoff series ago and last one too. So you're right. I mean, they're just exposed is the good word, brother. I agree with you with that.
Yes.
So, but next week we'll talk more about what the Islanders need if by chance they lose. It's still open to chance, brother. Do I think the Islanders are going? No.
I'm saying Ning in 6, brother.
Well, let's see. We'll see what happens. Anyway,
I hope I'm wrong, but Ning in 6.
JETS just end the season now. They started. They often start out in Buffalo their season, but usually you don't feel so bad after the first game of the season with the Jets that this season is going to be a wasted experience, and the fact that we can't go to MetLife Stadium to watch them is probably a good thing. It's just hard to believe that this team is, maybe it could have been an XFL team if the XFL was around right now. I don't know. They're not what they should be. Sam Darnold's supposed to be turning into one of the premier quarterbacks, and from yesterday, I didn't get that impression at all.
Brother, I know you watched the game. I know you were very studious as far as what was going on with the Jets, and I'll tell you, I was incredibly demoralized by yesterday's just lack of effort and bungling. I really didn't expect. I knew the Jets were going to lose. I really didn't expect them to look so bad losing,
right?
Because the Buffalo Bills are a good team, and I still think even though after yesterday people are all over Cam Newton and the New England Patriots and, oh my God, they're going to win the division again. The Patriots are still a flawed team. And I still think the Buffalo Bills are the favorites in the AFC East. But I can't imagine how anybody could be a Jets fan after yesterday's game and think that this team is number one, going in the right direction, and number two, has any chance to do anything this year other than win 5 games at the most. This is a bad football team. And don't be surprised. And I'm not. I have no idea because we don't know. Le'Veon Bell is supposed to get an MRI on his hamstring. Don't be surprised if that turns into a 6 or 7 game injury. I can't imagine how this team is still this bad. And you know that I was a big proponent of Sam Darnold. I was very happy when the Jets got him.
You said it was one of the smartest deals they ever did.
I don't know if I said that, but it was the right pick, and I said the Giants should have picked him because I thought he was the best quarterback in that draft. And if you're going to build a team, you have to start with the quarterback. I am now of the mindset that the Giants absolutely did the right thing because they picked the star player in that draft, and that the Jets and the Browns and pretty much any other team that picked a quarterback in that draft just completely screwed up their futures. Because the only quarterback in that draft who's doing anything is Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Baker Mayfield
yesterday he was worth the pick.
Yeah, but Baker Mayfield's is a disaster, and he's getting worse every season, it seems. Sam Darnold he might have talent. He has been nothing but a victim of bad coaching and bad general managers since he has come to the NFL. Because the Jets can't get out of their own way. And Adam Gase, for all of the talk when the Jets were in the process of hiring him about how he's this quarterback guru and he worked with Peyton Manning, hire Peyton Manning then. Because Adam Gase probably had nothing to do with anything that Peyton Manning did except make Adam Gase look like he was a competent coach. Because Gase is terrible. And I don't even know if he's going to survive the season. But if he's not fired by the end of the season, then there's something really wrong in Jets land. And the thing that scares me the most for this franchise is that Gase, you remember, he won the power struggle last year.
Right,
so Joe Douglas is his guy. Is Joe Douglas going to have the cojones to fire his boy? Or is he going to just say, well, everything is getting better and we're doing, we're showing progress in this area? No, Gase has to go.
Well, I don't think it would be Joe Douglas's decision. I think it would be ownership's decision to fire a coach.
Joe Douglas is going to have input. He's general manager. He's the guy's running the football team.
Right, but they probably come up to him and say, hey, Joe, get rid of Adam.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, he will, because otherwise he'll say, well, I'm going to tender my resignation too. Then, but
right. That's not
I mean, at some point you have to be able to say this is not the guy, and this is not working, because the Jets are supposed to be an offensive team with Adam Gase in charge. Have you seen any evidence of that in the last 2 seasons? Because I haven't.
And yesterday, I mean, it's 27-17, but it wasn't even close at all.
It was a disaster.
It was just a bad game, and it was just embarrassing. The first game of the season. This is going to be the template for the rest of the year. Oh God,
Bills score on their first 3 possessions. It's 21-0 in the second quarter. The game is over at that point. Over. There's nothing going on for the Jets.
Nope. And
it was 21-3 at halftime. The Jets finally get a touchdown, and the only reason they got a touchdown was because Jamison Crowder you look at it, 69-yard touchdown. Wow, sounds impressive, right? What was it? It was a screen pass. Darnold hits Crowder in the right flat. He splits 2 defenders. He slips a tackle, and he goes 69 yards. That play was designed to gain 5 yards. It gained 69 this time. That was the big touchdown. That was the big Jets offense right there. So it's a fortunate touchdown. And then at the end of the game, the Bills don't care if the Jets score another touchdown. The Jets bang one in late. So and that had been preceded by a 19-yard field goal and a 22-yard field goal by the Bills, which, let's face it, if the game was close and they needed to score there, they would have punched it in. That's the Bills saying, we're already up a couple of touchdowns. The ball's on the one side, we'll kick a field goal. Don't worry about it. No, that's not a big deal.
They're like, let's get the field goal team out there, give them a little practice.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what a team that is not being threatened does. They'll just kick field goals. Okay, we'll just put another 3 points on the board. No big deal. We don't need a touchdown. We'll just take the field goal. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was just and then the Giants are playing tonight. Just they're on Monday Night Football. You know why? You know what this is, brother?
What? Let's show Saquon Barkley to America, because this would be the last. I don't know if I have no idea what the TV schedule is, but I can't even imagine why national television will want to have the Giants on another game after tonight. And the Steelers are a pretty good team. They're not a great team, so this might even be a fairly close game. And remember, Ben Roethlisberger is coming off elbow surgery. He hasn't played in a long time, so who knows how he's going to be? He's going to have to bang off a little rust. But this is national. The chance for all of America to see Saquon Barkley, and this is more about Saquon Barkley becoming one of those faces of the NFL. Because I don't know if you've seen it in the last 24 hours. He's been all over ESPN and doing interviews there everywhere. It's all been Saquon Barkley. I haven't seen Daniel Jones once. It's all been Saquon Barkley, and it's all been about him, the Giants running back. And they're like, whoa, look at his quads. He's got massive quads. Okay, but that's what it's about. It's about Saquon Barkley and his quads.
Well, you got to talk about something. Well,
anyway, we'll see. We'll see what we have to talk about after the game.
We have Dan DeRosalia on the Zoom with us as we continue our show here. You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC. Here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This hour of From the Press Box is brought to you by Good Gold Radio. Join Big Ed at 10 o'clock right after us for Good Gold, the oldies that don't get played on the radio anymore. Big Ed plays them. Anyway, Dan, welcome back. Dan DeRosalia. How are we doing, Dan?
Good morning, Rob. Good morning. You guys hearing me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. How are you guys?
Okay, Dan is our independent tennis expert. And, of course, yesterday was the U.S. Open men's final. And, Dan, this is like the fourth year in a row we've had you on. So just congratulations. You're leading the pack on guests who've been on the show.
Congratulations on qualifying for friend of the show status, Dan.
Yes. So just to let you know. Anyway, let's start out with the, it was actually a very good men's final yesterday, but I want to start out with the fact that there, like many sporting events right now, no fans over in Flushing Meadow. And one thing about New York fans with the U.S. Open, whether it's tennis or golf, even when it was at Bethpage a few years ago, New York fans are loud. They will tell you what's going on. I remember with the Bethpage golf tournament, people were yelling out which 5 irons to use, what clubs to use on certain parts of the course. And of course, one thing about New York and the U.S. Open tennis is they always seem to pick someone, unbeknownst to the crowd, but all of a sudden they just start cheering for someone and pick up on them. And of course, there was no crowd this year, so it was a much different atmosphere. But it actually came off very good. What your opinion was?
You have to credit the USTA. They did a great job. There was a lot of consternation about whether to even have the event.
Right.
A whole ton of players, especially on the women's side, decided not to even come over from Europe. The number 1 player in the world, Ashley Barty from Australia, she didn't come over. Lots of people thought that it was inappropriate to even have the event under the circumstances, but the USTA did a great job and they pulled it off with, of course there's going to be hiccups, but they did as good a job as they could possibly do. And I know, as a sports fan, I'm starved for live sports, so thank God they did it. It gave me 2 weeks of great tennis to watch on television.
Right, and they canceled Wimbledon, so to cancel this, it's 2 of the 4 majors. That's not something you really want for a sport that's, is watched but isn't, you have the 4 major events and then a lot of other events. So you need the major events to happen, and they did a great job. I mean, there were actually people sitting in the stands, but they weren't fans. There were people working there, or they were coaches or something like that.
Other players too.
Yes, other players. So that was kind of an interesting little thing. I thought it was a great experience. I mean, I hope this doesn't become a habit, because obviously that means we wouldn't have a vaccine by next year. But I thought it was very good. I also know that USTA, and you can confirm this for me, gets all their money to run the entire year from the 2 weeks of the U.S. Open. So to have the TV was very important to them, for partly to get some of that money, because they basically run that whole complex based on the 2 weeks in September. So that is one of the reasons I'm sure they did it, but it worked out very well. They used the right amount of crowd noise, I think. I think that's the best way to describe it.
And the great unknown is, and we'll never know, right? The great unknown is, how did the lack of fans affect results, if at all? I think they did. I think there are players who won matches who might not have otherwise won matches if there was an American crowd breathing down their throat. First and foremost example for me is the 16-year-old American phenom Coco Gauff, who lost 6-4 in the third set to Anastasia Sevastova in the first round. And she's not exactly known for producing clutch tennis in big moments, but in this moment where Coco Gauff normally shines in front of a raucous crowd, she didn't have anyone there to help her, and Sevastova didn't have anyone there to kind of jeer her, I guess. So I do think there were some results affected by the lack of crowd.
I wouldn't be surprised if that would have been the case in the men's final yesterday. I mean, or after winning the first 2 sets, would the crowd have started to root Thiem on and kind of maybe try to get him fired up? Because I mean, Zverev pretty much won those first 2 sets. I don't want to say easily, but it was he looked in control of the match, and then in the third set, it just kind of started to fall apart on him.
Well, and if you remember last year, Nadal beat an up-and-coming Russian player named Daniil Medvedev in 5 sets to win the U.S. Open. And as much as the New York crowd loves Nadal, they got behind Medvedev when he was behind 2-0 because they wanted a long final.
Right.
Yep.
The New York crowd always wants to bang for its buck. They'll cheer for that all day. It's like, wait, 3 sets? No, we don't want to leave yet. Come on, let's go.
That's true. One thing that didn't happen this year, Serena Williams going for a 24th Grand Slam. She's still at number 23. How did she play? Because she's the big name in women's tennis for many people, and she's still going. But do you think she's ever going to get to 24th or even 25th, the way other things are?
So, are you an optimist or a pessimist? That's kind of how you look at Serena. Serena Williams is 39 years old.
Right.
She's 39, and she's still routinely making semifinals and finals of major events, and that is to be commended and shouldn't be overlooked. The fact of the matter is, with Serena now, she can still produce some of her best tennis and not win, which would never have been the case 10 years ago. Right. Case in point, this year's semifinal to Victoria Azarenka, where Serena played very well, and it wasn't good enough. I think since the comeback started this year, since quarantine ended, she played 12 matches, and I think 10 of the 12 went 3 sets. So she's not dominating the way she used to.
Right.
She's still able to serve big and produce good tennis, but she's not clearly better than everybody else anymore. And personally, I have doubts as to whether she's ever going to get to 24.
Wow. It's
you don't get better as you get older in tennis, that's for sure.
Yeah, but the fact that she came back after having her child, a lot of people just sort of say, okay, well, I'm walking away. It's not like she has nothing really to prove except, the top or at least tie Margaret Court.
She has nothing to prove.
Right.
The 24 mark that Margaret Court is chasing is kind of hollow because she did it in the pre-Open era. So most people consider Serena the best player ever as it is anyway. When I watch Serena play, and I don't know her, I've never spoken with her. When I watch her play, I don't see a lot of joy. I see somebody chasing majors, and that's not great. When you juxtapose that with the attitude of someone like Victoria Azarenka, who just looked gleeful to be on the court, and she's another one, 31 years old, a mother. She had a custody battle, which kept her off the tour for about a year.
Oh, wow.
It's a difficult thing to see Serena. She looks like emotionally she really struggles out there, and I can't help but feel like she's just chasing majors at this point.
Yeah, because if you look at especially the semifinal, Serena wins the first set 6-1. You expect her to win that match with such a dominant first set, and then she loses the second and third 6-3 both. That to me speaks to what you were saying before, Dan, about that she's not the dominant player anymore. And if she can win the first set convincingly, but then lose the next two and get eliminated, you really have to question where she is as far as being an elite player anymore.
And she wasn't the betting favorite going into the match.
Right.
So there was an acknowledgement that she's not producing the results that she used to. And her opponent, Azarenka, won her quarterfinal and lost one game. So that's obviously a factor too. But Serena just doesn't move quite as well as she used to. Her serve can still bail her out. She can obviously still win. But she's going to need things to break right for her. And look, in this tournament, 25 of the top 100 players on the women's side didn't come. 6 of the top 10 didn't come, and she couldn't reach the final.
Good point.
You have to start to wonder.
Yeah, it definitely speaks volumes.
Yeah. Is Naomi Osaka the new leader for women's tennis? Second tournament or second time she's won the Open in 3 years. Is she the new, I don't know, Golden Girl's the wrong term, but the new leader of the pack, so to speak, or is it just the U.S. Open?
So this is her second U.S. Open in 3 years. In between,
right.
She also won an Australian Open. She's 22 and she's 3 majors. There is a large crop of young players who are very good, but she is at the top of that large crop. She can do it all. Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about yesterday's men's final. I actually was watching the end of the Islanders, so I turned it on, and I missed the first 2 sets, but it looked like it was going to end in the third set, and then all of a sudden there's this great comeback. And it was actually, I think, one of the better matches I've seen in the finals for the U.S. Open. And I tend to watch the U.S. Open finals, going back a long time. What's your analysis of the match? Because it was, they were falling apart a little bit at the end. They were getting cramps. They were, they weren't running as much. They just seemed to run out of steam. So, what was your idea of it?
I attribute it all to nerves. We've seen Dominic Thiem and Zverev both play marathon matches. Thiem 2 years ago played a 5-set match against Nadal in a much more humid environment. Yesterday was pretty mild weather-wise, and their bodies began to show attrition, after the 3-hour mark. I attribute it all to nerves. When Novak Djokovic gets eliminated from the tournament, which I'm sure we'll talk about later,
yeah,
and Nadal and Federer aren't playing, these guys who normally wouldn't have a chance to win, all of a sudden it becomes real. And, this was Dominic Thiem's 4th major final, the first time he was ever expected to win. I think that's a burden that is very difficult for these players to deal with. I think you saw some of those nerves with Zverev in the semifinal against Carreno Busta when he also fell behind 2-0 before getting going. And I think it did hamstring and paralyze those guys almost a little bit to the point where their bodies started to give out at the end.
Yeah, they were both struggling pretty noticeably towards the end. Both of them seemed to be dealing with cramps and like Rob said, neither one of them was really moving very well. It kind of became a war of attrition, and for a match that goes just over 4 hours, I mean, it had to be the nerves, because you would think that preparation-wise that these guys wouldn't, would make sure that they were hydrated and knew whatever risks that could be, could be overcome going into the match, that they wouldn't allow any of those to be overlooked. But it turned out to be an exciting match, and I think for tennis fans, obviously they're familiar with both of these guys. For somebody like myself or my brother who really don't pay that much attention to tennis, both of these guys were relatively new names. Like you said, Thiem has been in 3 finals before, so I knew a little bit more about him going into the match. But like you said, it's now all of a sudden he's the favorite, and how does that impact him? And that's what we found out, and it turned out that he was able to dig deep, and when somewhere in that 3rd set, and I'm not even 100% sure where, everything just kind of switched around, and Thiem started to play better. Zverev's, he was playing more of a power game. It seemed to desert him a little bit. His forehand, which had been very good in the first 2 sets, suddenly got a bit more erratic. Thiem started winning a lot of points with his second serve, and things just flipped. And then you kind of expected it during the 4th set that there would be a 5th set. So it just became that kind of a battle, and it really turned into a good match, which you wouldn't have expected after 2 sets.
Tennis and golf, right? These sports that are individual sports, half of the results, I think, are determined by your mind and having absolutely nothing to do with your skill. They're such mental sports, which is why you can see a guy lose 2 sets, 6-1, 6-2, and then come back and win the next 3 sets.
Right.
You can see in the 3rd set, Zverev's forehand racket speed started to really slow down, which is the first indication that nerves are beginning to play a factor. When you get super close like that, it's really not easy to finish. In that 5th set tiebreak yesterday, which was astonishing drama because of how fragile both players were, Zverev served the second serve 68 miles an hour. I've played USTA matches where I serve faster than that. So you feel bad that there had to be a loser because it's so cliche, but both guys really did deserve to win. Thiem has been here before in Australia. Thiem lost a 5-setter to Djokovic this past January in the final, and I'm sure Zverev at 22 years old will have many opportunities down the road. But this is a tough one for him.
We're talking with Dan DeRosalia, independent tennis expert, about the 2020 U.S. Open tennis tournament over at Flushing Meadows, which ended yesterday. Let's talk about Djokovic. They re-showed that play where he hit the ball toward the judge, and it's funny how if you let it go a little bit longer, you see that it wasn't on purpose, and when you only see the exact clip, you say, "Oh my God, what's that about?" But when you actually saw it a little bit, they added a little more space on each side. You realize he didn't mean to hit her. and it was almost like a mistake. And then she gets hit in the throat, and then he gets disqualified. I'm not sure if he should have been disqualified.
No, rule is a rule, brother.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like he lined up and said, well, I'm going to get you. It's not like he lined up and said, boom, boom, boom. It's not like he had 3 or 4 balls at her just to shut her up. But at the same time, I understand why. Has that ever happened before where like a judge gets hit like that by mistake?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, there have been disqualifications before. Never. The only other disqualification in a major I can remember was McEnroe got disqualified in the Australian Open in 1990, but it wasn't because he pegged the line judge in the throat with a ball. So let me tell you, I am probably the biggest Novak Djokovic fan you know, and I will tell you that he had to be disqualified. There was no other decision to make. Like I said to my wife, who was watching the event with me at the time, if our son decides he's going to take a golf ball and throw it around the living room and break her vase, it doesn't really matter whether or not he meant to do it. He showed, a willful disregard for what could happen given the callousness of his actions. And that's the same thing with Djokovic. People are back there. You just can't do it. And if someone gets hit, then you have to pay the price. This, to me, was an open and shut case, not even open to a debate. He had to go.
Yeah. And if he's that frustrated, hit a ball into the crowd. It's not like you're going to hit anybody this year. There's nobody there. Hit the ball into the seats. There's no problem with that. Fine, maybe you get penalized a point or something, but it's better than getting DQ'd for the match.
So Djokovic has had this issue before. He doesn't deal well with his frustration. Social media is wonderful for this. Somebody drudged up an interview that he did back in 2016 where a reporter actually challenged him on his propensity for angrily hitting balls, and the reporter asked him, are you worried one day you're going to get disqualified because you hit somebody by accident? And he more or less said, you reporters are always trying to stir things up. I'll be fine. And that was 4 years ago. And then 4 years later, this happened. And I want to say one other thing about this as a former journalist. Djokovic is 33 years old. He was the president of the Players Council. And to me, he showed no guts. He got disqualified from the tournament at 4:11, and by 4:34, he was in a car leaving the grounds, blew off his mandatory press conference, showed zero leadership, and produced an Instagram video page, 4 hours later. If you're a leader, you don't get to pick and choose when you lead. You have to stand in there, answer the tough questions, and face the music, apologize for what you did, express concern for the judge who you hit, and move forward after that, get in front of it. He showed absolutely zero leadership, and that was extraordinarily disappointing to me as a fan of his. It was really tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if something like that happens, the one thing that to me is mandatory is sit in the press conference, answer the questions. You're one of the top players in the sport. That should be mandatory. It shouldn't be, well, I'm going to get in a car and escape and get on a plane and go wherever I'm going. That he handled that about as poorly as it could have been handled.
Yeah. And Tim, 2 years ago, basically 2 years ago to the day, we sat here and had a pretty good conversation about Serena Williams' actions against Naomi Osaka,
right,
in the final, which I vehemently disagreed with Serena's actions. She got into that press conference and answered questions. I didn't love the answers that she gave, but she stood in there and answered them. And Djokovic snuck into a car and drove right off the grounds. It was extremely disappointing to me.
Yeah, well, two things there. Number one, that was why I was glad Osaka won, because she finally got a moment for herself as the U.S. Open champion. So good for her on that. But number two, like you said, Serena, I didn't like her answers either in that press conference. I didn't think that she was sincere, and I didn't think that her answers really showed the kind of experience and leadership that she should show in that instance. But at least she was there. Answer the question. You don't like the questions when you're in that moment, because now people are asking you about a very negative instance and a negative situation that I'm sure every player would rather not have to deal with and rather would never have happened. But they do happen. And that's when you find out what kind of character an athlete has, is in those moments. And Djokovic, I'm sorry, he he really did show his character is lacking with the way he departed from the U.S. Open.
One positive I'm going to take out of it is people like me who love tennis have been very concerned about the future of men's tennis once Federer, Nadal, Djokovic leave, and this tournament gave us a glimpse into it, and it's pretty good. Team was Team won his first major. Zverev's 22. There's a young Canadian, 21-year-old Denis Shapovalov, who made a quarterfinal, who did very well. I think the future's okay for men's tennis, and this gave us a pretty good glimpse into the future. So maybe it's a little rosy, but I'm going to take a little positive out of it and say that the sport's going to be okay once these guys leave.
Good point.
Yeah, it usually, you look at, you can even look at just like with the NBA, and people were concerned with what's going to happen when Michael Jordan leaves. Well, yeah, here comes LeBron. I think that because, especially with the men's side, Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer have dominated for such an extended period that you don't necessarily get to see the other players because they're never in a final, and they don't get tested, that battle tested. You don't get to see them in those circumstances because it's we're in a tennis final, and here's Djokovic against Federer, or here's Federer against Nadal, and how many times have they played before? And now, like you said, we got to see two guys who are very good players, but probably a lot of casual fans aren't very familiar with because they don't get to see them in a final. And I would certainly like to see more American players for that obvious bias, but I really did like what I saw yesterday and the men's final that, like I said before, it turned out to be an incredibly dramatic match where it didn't seem like we were going to see one. So, I was very impressed with both players, and obviously especially impressed with Thiem for rallying the way he did and doing what was necessary to finally win that match.
Yeah, he did. He hit, I think it was at 5-all, 30-all in the fifth set yesterday. He hit two outrageous forehands that more or less saved the match for him. And at least, even if they didn't go in, at least at the end of the day, he could say he went for it.
Right.
Play conservative and didn't play not to lose. He went for it, and luckily for him, they went in. Look, Dominic Thiem, like I said, is his fourth final. He's paid his dues. He deserved to win one, so I'm happy for him that he got one, and Zverev will get one too. He's 22 years old. He'll probably get more than one. Once the big three kind of clear out, there'll be majors to win.
Yeah, right, and tennis is always needed. I think out of all the sports, especially the individual sports, always needs good rivalries, because people will talk about the rivalries because it gives them something to look at. Besides, you still think of Everett Navratilova, you still think of McEnroe Borg. You still think of those guys years later, and it's always good to have, especially in tennis, I think a good rivalry going. And this could be the beginning of they said in Casablanca, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So, I hope it does.
You need good rivalries, but you need good personalities too.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I think tennis. I understand why they've done it, but I think tennis, in the interest of maybe being classy, hasn't let these guys express themselves to the point where we could get to know them. If they yell or they utter anything remotely close to a curse word in any language, they're getting penalized for it by the judge. I personally think the judges should let that go. I want to see what these guys are about. I think it'd be better for the sport if we learned a little bit more about who they were and how much passion they have. And maybe if they were more like John McEnroe than the milquetoast players that we have now, who actually are all very similar and all behave the same. It's
right. We have a few more minutes, Dan. Anything else to talk about the U.S. Open before we leave that we haven't, looked at?
Moving on. I've already got the Italian Open on my tennis channel right now. The world has already moved on. If the French Open starts in 2 weeks, it's such a crazy tennis calendar because of Corona.
Right.
I guess the only other thing I would really want to say, and it's interesting, is the second Djokovic went out of the tournament, the men's tournament became like the women's tournament. And what I mean is, in the women's tournament, anyone can win. So every match is super important. Round of 16 match, someone could have match point against and come back and win the tournament. Whereas in the men's tournament, okay, so Karina Busta beats Shapovalov. They're just going to be fodder for Djokovic in the quarterfinal anyway. Who cares? But as soon as Djokovic went out, really, 10 men could have won this tournament. So for me, it almost became more dramatic to be
right
to the round of 16 matches and the quarterfinal matches, which often lack the drama because you know who's going to be in the semifinal.
Right.
Anyway, so I have to say on that level, I really enjoyed the men's tournament this year more than I have maybe in the past 5 years, where we know it's going to be some combination of Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal in the semifinals.
Well, Dan, thanks for joining us. Dan DeRosalia, independent tennis expert for the fourth straight year, joining us here on From the Press Box. We look forward to next year's visit, Dan, and have a good day, man. Take care.
Hopefully we'll be talking about the fans next year.
Yeah.
I hope I'm one of them because I missed it this year.
Take care, Dan. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye, guys.
Anyway, we got time left here, brother. Now, get this, brother. This is the Yankees are 26-21 in third place in the AL East. The Mets are 21-26 in fourth place, and their record isn't as bad as you think, meaning in the National League East or the National League, they're not winning as much as, I guess, the American League or something. They're scheduled, I mean, their standings isn't as bad as maybe it should be the way the Mets have been playing. So I'll let you go with the Yankees first. This is a strange team, Tim, because this team's going to probably make the playoffs, but you're not sure if they actually deserve it because, I don't know, they just don't seem to be playing very well, brother, lately.
Who are you talking about?
Yankees.
Oh, stop. The Yankees have just won 5 in a row. What are you talking about?
That doesn't count.
The team is remarkably injured. They're trying to patch it together like they did last year, and it just shows you what an accomplishment last year was. Look, we're in a situation here. The Yankees just swept the Orioles. They have won 5 in a row. Is that
a shock, though, brother? That's the question.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Orioles had been playing pretty well, so yeah, it was something of a shock because the Orioles when they came into this series over the weekend were actually in contention for a playoff spot. They were 20-23, a couple games under 500. If it would have been them sweeping the Yankees instead of the Yankees sweeping them, the Orioles would be a 500 team right now, and we'd be talking about them as a playoff contender. They would have a better record than the Houston Astros. So yeah,
okay.
let's not pile on the Yankees.
I'm just pulling your leg, brother, because you get a little going sometimes, and then sometimes they gotta pull you back, so to speak.
Well, my guy Luke Voigt, brother, that was the main story because early last week, Voigt basically called out the Yankees, and he said, "Look, we're not playing the way the New York Yankees are supposed to play baseball, and we're not getting done."
They were playing bad.
Well, but like I said, they were playing bad. Now they're playing better, and if you look at the schedule, the remaining schedule. They have games against Tampa or games against Toronto, and those are going to be the games that really pretty much determine. I think Tampa Bay has first place pretty much locked up, but the Yankees will face the Blue Jays 7 times going down the stretch. They have 3 against the Red Sox and 3 against the Marlins. So those 7 games against the Blue Jays are going to be a big deciding factor in terms of which team finishes in second place behind the Tampa Bay Rays. I tell you what, don't sleep on those last 3 games against the Marlins because the Marlins are still fighting in the NL East for a possible playoff spot there.
Right.
So, but the Yankees, what they've done, especially in the last few games, they've gotten good pitching, and that will make up for a lot of things. Jay Happ yesterday gave up a run in I think it was 5 1/3. Garrett Cole had a great start. He threw a shutout against I don't even remember who it was. I think it was against the Orioles. It was 6-0 in the doubleheader. And then Tanaka pitched the nightcap, and they won that one 10-1. Then it was Davey Garcia, I think it was, on the Saturday. So they've been getting great pitching. In the last 4 games against the Orioles, the Yankees gave up 3 runs total in 4 games. That's how you win in Major League Baseball. That's why you win 5 in a row.
Well, they're doing well. The third place is a good chance for second. I agree with you on that. The Mets, I don't know. You know, there's so much hatred for the Mets right now. Sometimes you get lost in the fact that they're not playing that bad. They're just not playing that good. You got ownership changes possibly happening very soon. And no offense against J-Rod and J-Lo or A-Rod, whatever they call themselves. But, you know.
Pick one, brother.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I know they wanted to buy the Mets or be the leader of the group that does. But you know what? You don't say, well, we would have been a better owner. You know, it's.
Well, they probably will. They probably would have been. But the problem is that you need cash. And
you're a better owner if you have the cash, you know.
I do want to address something, brother, and I do want to point this out to Met fans, because apparently what I have seen on Twitter in the last week is that Met fans seem to be a little bit delusional about the Steve Cohen ownership.
Oh, God, yes, I agree.
Steve Cohen is not going to come in and spend $400 million a season on the Mets.
No,
he's just not. All right? He's buying the Mets. He wants to make money. I don't care if he is a Met fan. He is not coming in and spending an absurd amount of money on salaries. So don't expect the Mets to get the top 6 free agents in this year's offseason.
Top 6, the Met fans are already pulling the top 10.
Well,
what are you talking about?
It is not going to be this insane spending spree where Cohen comes in. It's like, oh, he's got $15 billion. What does he care about a luxury tax? Well, you know what? Every owner cares about a luxury tax. They're in it to make money. They're not in it. They're not in it to make their fans happy. You know, if that happens, great. But that's not why they're there. They're in it to make money.
Yeah, but also to own a team, and at this point, you know, anything's going to be better than the Wilpons. So I mean, you know, but the Wilpons still technically be around. They're going to own 5% for tax purposes. So that's going to be part of it.
Seen and not heard. That's the best role for the Wilpons.
That is definitely the best role. We should say before we leave, brother, no hitter for the Cubs, Alec Mills.
Good for him.
Good for him. And Albert Pujols is now tied for 5th place on the all-time home run list. The number 660. You know what? It used to be number 3, and now it's number 5, and it's still Willie Mays, and that's why it gets mentioned, because it's still Willie.
Yes, A-Rod is next, but that's 37 home runs away, which is a lot of home runs for Albert Pujols at this point in his career.
Yeah, so congratulations to Albert. Congratulations to Alec. That just about does it for From the Press Box. My name is Rob Leonard. We're here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Joining me is my brother, Tim Leonard. Thanks, brother. And we'll see you next Monday. And thanks to Sean Novat for keeping us on the air. Coming up next is Big Ed with Good Gold. Keep it tuned here. Take care. Bye-bye.